In the first section of this course, we uprooted some ways of thinking and living that we realized didn't serve us as well as we'd hoped. Then we cultivated some new perspectives on ourselves, our circumstances, and God. And in these final sessions, we're going to look at some practical tools that will help us flourish. Because this is an important question. How do we live now? In other words, what is going to change in a practical way so that when the restlessness comes back around, we're able to address it differently? It's my hope that when the weeds start to grow in the garden that we've been cultivating, we'd not stare at them as evidence of failure. Instead of shaming ourselves because we can't manage our lives well, perhaps feeling selfish for wanting more than everyone else, and asking ourselves, why can't I just be happy? We'll read this restlessness as hope. Because restlessness is actually a gift. It's a roadmap back home. As St. John of the Cross taught, it's a mercy that reminds us that there is nothing here that will fill this cavern in our souls, a cavern that calls out infinitely to be filled, that seems unquenchable. No matter what we try to fill it with, this craving and wanting will feel insurmountable, because it is. It's a desire as big as God Himself. There is redemption, peace, joy, and life for each one of us on this side of heaven. But don't be fooled into thinking there is a complete fulfillment of our true purpose here. One day, there will be a final filling of this aching gap in our hearts. But as long as we walk on this earth, there will be a gap between what we long to experience right now and what we have to wait for until we reach the other side of eternity. So how do we live now, practically speaking, to not just survive our journey to absolute fulfillment, but to thrive? I believe our pursuit of a flourishing life will be successful to the degree that we live out of our true identities. The questions, who am I, and what does it take to be happy, to live a good life, were ones that Aristotle obsessed over. Considering he lived thousands of years ago, this reminds us that these are age-old questions that aren't going to just go away. And what he was trying to figure out was what it means to be a flourishing human being. And he started by asking, what is man's proper function? In other words, what were you made for? He reasoned that if you were to think about an object, say a watch, we would know what a good watch was based on its basic purpose or function. So a good watch tells time accurately. A watch that doesn't tell time is not a good watch. It's not a flourishing watch because it isn't functioning as it was intended to. And the same would go for a chair. So a chair's basic function is to bear the weight of a person sitting in it. A good chair does not break when a person sits down. We can determine the goodness of the chair based on its basic purpose. For Aristotle, the same goes for a person. A good person, a flourishing person, is one who knows his or her basic purpose and lives it out. And this means that identity and purpose are connected, that who we are is intricately tied to what we do. We cannot separate the two. The choices we make form who we are. And in order to make the right choices, we need to discover what our basic purpose is, how we are intended to function. So think back to the part of Cultivate where we looked at our longing for purpose. We looked at the function of the coffee pot and how essential it was to put the right things into the coffee pot for it to achieve its purpose, which was to make coffee. And in addition, we noted that a person who didn't know the true function of the coffee pot would likely break it. Our purpose on earth is to live, specifically to love, in such a way that we can spend eternity in heaven experiencing the total fulfillment we were created for. It's an invitation to journey into an ever more intimate relationship with the one we will meet face to face. So how do we do this? How do we grow in a relationship with a God we cannot touch or see in the way that we experience people around us? We begin by thinking about our choices instead of just letting life happen to us. Our actions and choices are not disconnected from the people we are becoming. The people we are going to be 5 years from now is connected to the choices we are making today. Have you ever said, I'm a good person deep down, despite whatever? Well, that kind of a statement would have seemed ridiculous to Aristotle. He insisted that in large measure, you are what you do. So if I were to say, I'm a good soccer player, I just never make a goal, and I don't know how to dribble the ball, you would say, I'm sorry, but you're not actually a good soccer player. Your desire, your good intentions don't actually translate into that being who you are. Or if I were to say, I'm a tidy person, I know how to clean. I don't dust or vacuum. I don't ever hang up my clothes, and I never get rid of anything. But I am basically like Marie Kondo. You would beg to differ. My actions would not be matching up with my good intentions, and the actions would determine reality. Once you recognize who you are at the core, a beloved, precious, chosen child of God, you then need to decide, what kind of a person do I want to be? When you feel lost, like you can't figure out who you are, it might be because while your ability to reason has matured, you have never answered the question for yourself, who do I want to be? This is not something to be worried about because there's no time like the present to give it some thought. In 5 years, what kind of a person do you want to be? I challenge you to write it down, not a treatise, just 3 things that you would want to be true about you. Things that for you would make you feel that you were a person you would want to be around, a good person. Then start making the choices that are consistent with those goals. Some of those choices will be hard because you will have to suffer in the short term to get what you want in the long term. But as you consistently make those choices, you will start to know yourself and be known as the kind of person who is whatever you have chosen to be. Your current actions and choices are forming who you are right now. You are becoming a certain kind of person, and this plays out, especially in the little things. So before moving on to the next video, I encourage you to take some time to reflect and journal on 3 things that you would like to be true of you, to be spoken of you in 5 years. And once that's done, we'll talk about how to make those aspirations your reality.